In today's story, the subscriber takes something she really shouldn't have, and she has to go to a family dinner afterwards, and it goes absolutely terribly. This is probably one of the most interesting stories I've ever received, so yeah, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who sent in the story Phoebe, which, by the way, leave a comment for a name you want me to use. I got the name Phoebe from the comments. And Phoebe, she sent in this story, and if you want to send in a story, you can do so to my Discord or Instagram. Both are in the description. And yeah, so anyways, right, so this was just started off as a normal Saturday, right? Wonderful day, right? Who doesn't like themselves a good Saturday? So right, Phoebe's a good kid, but she tries some stuff every once in a while, and I will publicly say, do not try stuff like this, do not get into this. Maybe it won't go bad for you, but there's always a chance it will, and I just want you guys to do well. But I think this story is interesting and maybe an example of why you shouldn't get into this stuff. So yeah, anyways. So, Phoebe was someone who, would mess with this stuff every once in a while, but genuinely, wasn't doing it, every day or something like that. But anyways, right, Phoebe, one day, she was just it was one Saturday, so it was a weekend. She was just kind of hanging out until she got a text from her friend saying, hey, do you want to come over quickly? So they all lived in the same neighborhood, so Phoebe could literally just have a 5-minute walk. But Phoebe said, hey, what's up? Why do you want me to come over? And the friend is like, I have something cool to show you. And Phoebe's like, can you say what it is? And the friend just says, surprise, come over. So yeah, Phoebe, gets up, walks 5 minutes over to the friend's house and, greets the friend at the door. And the friend's like, hey, what's up? Come up to my room. But anyways, right, Phoebe, goes up to her friend's house and, the friend said, hey, come up to my room. So they both go up to, Phoebe's friend's room. And, Phoebe was kind of just looking around, just so what's the surprise? And Phoebe's friend says, take a look at this. And she reaches over to her backpack, kind of rustles around for a second, and opens up one of the interior pockets. There's a interior zip-in pocket in the backpack, reaches in and pulls something out. And Phoebe looks at it, and it's just a bag with little white dots inside. And Phoebe's just I don't know what that is. And, her friend's like, oh, Phoebe, do you want to have a fun experience today? And the thing is, right, Phoebe's just all right, well, there's nothing I have to do later today. So, I'm chilling. Things are pretty good. And at this point, right, Phoebe, she was kind of bored. She didn't have anything planned for the day. She's going to do her homework tomorrow anyways. So she was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Because at this point, right, obviously Phoebe would not take this from a random person, but she was very good friends with this person who, went to very specific people and made sure that the stuff that she got was not going to mess her up as well. Obviously don't do this in general, but, Phoebe was not just taking it from some random homeless person being like, hey, eat this. You'll have a fun rest of your life. She's not just doing it from some rando or some sketchy kid comes into school and says, hey, Phoebe. Yeah. Take this. No, don't. She's not like that. It's still not good to do that in general, but at least she's not like that guy, right? Anyways, right, so Phoebe, she ingests the magic thing. I'm not going to get into it any more than that. And she was feeling fine. She's like, all right, well, I think it's probably best that I go back home. And, Phoebe's friend's like, haha, yeah, just let me know what happens. Keep me updated or whatever. And so, yeah, Phoebe walks back home and doesn't really feel anything. Most likely the effects of this will take a little while to hit in, but when they do, they definitely do. Anyways, right, so Phoebe gets back to the house, and, she sees her mom, grinding away in the kitchen, bro. Her mom is going, full force, getting food ready, washing dishes, and she kind of looks at her, and she's like, Mom, why are you going so, why are you making so much food? Is, because, her mom wasn't someone who'd, make food for the week or anything. I don't know if that's a thing that parents do sometimes, because, my mom does it, occasionally, she'll make stuff for later, but, Phoebe's mom was making food what seemed for, the entire week, and this was just not anything that was normal, right? So she kind of went to her mom, she's like, Mom, why are you making all this food? And Phoebe's mom's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you, we're having your grandparents over for dinner tonight. Phoebe just kind of looked at her you gotta be kidding me, bro, you gotta be seriously kidding me, bro. She didn't actually say that, but she was just like, oh, really? So anyways, Phoebe's like, oh, when are they coming? And her mom's like, they're coming at 5. And Phoebe looks at her phone, and it is 1:30, and she's like, okay, Mom, okay. And her mom's like, I expect you to be there. And Phoebe's like, yeah, oh, okay. At that point, Phoebe should have said, oh, I was already planning on going to, like, my friend's house or something. Or Phoebe should have just, I mean, it was a tough position for Phoebe anyways, but the fact that her mom didn't tell her beforehand, she might have been able to get out of it, but only might have. But obviously her mom was definitely wanted Phoebe to be there for, her grandparents' dinner. She doesn't see her grandparents often, etc. like that. But, yeah, so Phoebe went upstairs and was like, all right, I just got to get through this. It's in 4 hours from now, or 4.5 hours from now. No, 3.5. I can't do math. I've been doing the secret word of the day kind of early, and that's because I don't like interrupting the flow of videos to get, like, really interesting kind of soon. So yeah, comment grandma if you made it this far. I'll try and heart a bunch of those comments, and while you're down there, leave a like on the video. You'll literally receive nothing. It is a fantastic deal. But anyways, right, Phoebe goes upstairs, and she's just like, oh, jeez, like, oh, shit, like, oh, God, what am I gonna do, bro? Like, for real, what am I gonna do? And she's like, all right, plan is, I got 3.5 hours or whatever, and I'm just going to wait it out. I'm just going to deal with the effects as they come, and hopefully, by the time my grandparents come, and I'm not going to greet them any early, if they come early, I'm not coming down, right? But when they come at 5, as I was told, I will go downstairs, I will hold minimal conversations, I will go to the bathroom and just try and, if I need it, I'll just squeeze more time that I can just, slightly come down from this, right? I'm just going to do my best to make it through the night. That's all I got to do. And while Phoebe was sitting there, she realized that, stuff in her room was starting to just look weird, and she's like, all right, oh boy, here we go, here it starts. All of a sudden, she hears her mom yell, Phoebe! But when she heard it, it was kind of distorted and a little gargle, and she's like, oh, crap. Why me? Why now? And she yells back, yeah? And her mom's like, come down, please. At this point, Phoebe's like, okay, I'm not too far into this. I can make this. I can survive. So Phoebe walks down the stairs and is very carefully walking down the stairs, because they're looking a little colorful and a little strange, and she's afraid that she's going to step on a stair that doesn't actually exist, if you know what I mean. So she gets down there, and she just looks at her mom, and her mom's like, Phoebe, are you okay? And Phoebe's like, yeah. And Phoebe's mom's like, you're looking at me very strangely. And Phoebe's like, no, I'm not. And her mom's like, all right, whatever, right? Can you just, help me, just bring this outside, bring it into the trash, and just come back? Anyways, right, so Phoebe grabs the trash and is just looking at it, and it's all, colorful and weird, and she's like, oh, God. So she goes outside, and is just, walking, and it feels like she's walking for, 3 hours at this point. And, she's just kind of, walking around, and she completely forgot what she was doing with the whole thing of, trash in her hand. And she goes around, she's just kind of, walking, she's just exploring the outside, until she hears her name, Phoebe! And she turns around and her mom is like, what are you doing? And Phoebe kind of snaps into it, and realizes that she's a bag of trash in her hand, and she's literally walking around in the neighbor's yard. She's like, sorry, got distracted, and then walks back, puts the trash in the trash, and is like, all right, Mom, I'm not feeling so well. I'm going up to my room. And her mom's like, okay then. Her mom's a little suspicious at this point, because she had never caught Phoebe doing anything in the past, but she had her own suspicions, and Phoebe was definitely acting a little strange at this point. And yeah, she definitely had the right to be suspicious, because Phoebe was acting very, very weird, to say the least. She was definitely she kind of spacing out, obviously was just walking around randomly in the neighbor's yard with a bag of trash. If that does not seem a little suspicious to you, then you're not paying attention. I don't know how else to say it. But anyways, right, Phoebe goes upstairs and is kind of just chilling for the next couple hours as kind of her experience becomes more intense. And the problem was, right, she had no idea, she had no sense of time at this point. She had no, idea of, what time it was actually going to be. Because, what felt like 10 minutes to her, she checked her phone and it was 4:50 or something. It was basically 5 o'clock, and she was at no point, in no way at all ready to go downstairs. But she's just sitting there, starting to panic a little bit, because she's realizing that she's in no condition to go downstairs. And she's not about to tell her mom, because her mom really has no explicit idea that she does stuff like this, and she knows that she's going to get completely whipped, completely destroyed. She will get grounded for the next, I don't know, 5 years if her mom ever figures this out. So she's just sitting there kind of just nervous. And then all of a sudden she hears her mom yell down, "Phoebe, your grandparents are here." And she looks at her phone, and it's like 5 minutes before, and she's like, of course, grandparents didn't even give me 5 more minutes to prepare. I mean, it's not like they knew, but whatever. So she goes downstairs, and her grandparents are down there, and she's like, "Hi, Grandma." And her grandparents are like, "Hi, Phoebe?" Because imagine, right? You're going to see your grandkid. You're so excited, and you walk in, and normally they just kind of look at you, smile, and say hello. But all of a sudden, they look at you with the wide eyes, look at both of you, and scream, "Hi, Grandma!" And her mom is like, "What the fuck?" And her mom's just like, "What?" So her mom responds, "Haha, someone's acting funny today," because, like, someone's a comedian. And Phoebe, for some reason, it was obviously because of the state she was in, but for some reason, she thought this was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. So she just bursts out laughing and does not stop laughing. At this point, her grandparents at first, like, smiled, and then they just stopped smiling after, like, 10 seconds of her laughing. Because right at this point, her grandparents are like, all right, something's up. And her grandmother, like, turns to, her mom, and she's like, yeah, like, something's up. Like, I think we should call an ambulance. Her mom's like, I have no idea what's wrong. Like, she's never like this. I think that's a good idea. And Phoebe at this point has no idea what's going on because she just can't stop laughing at this comment that she finds uncontrollably funny at this point. Obviously, in retrospect, it was not even funny at all. It had no humor. If anything, it was a comment out of concern. But she thought this is the funniest thing ever. And she just keeps laughing, and she has no idea what's happening as her own grandmother calls an ambulance. So she just sits there, and her grandparents and her mom are not acting like, what's going on? They're not freaking out. They're just very calm. They're like, let's go sit in the living room. So they all go over to the living room, and Phoebe's still kind of giggling a little bit at what's going on. And Phoebe's not paying attention to anything. She's kind of staring off into space and just, like, kind of looking around and kind of just staring off into, like, one of the paintings in the room. Because at this point, if you can only imagine, yeah, it's pretty interesting to look at for various reasons. But anyways, right, all of a sudden, Phoebe feels like her grandmother, like, grab her arm, not aggressively or anything, but just enough to, like, guide her. And Phoebe just kind of goes with it because she's like, all right, whatever, it's this grandma. And they walk outside, and she's just like, all right, whatever, it's just grandma and I walking out. Oh, my God, there's an ambulance. And she looks at it. There's paramedics. There's an ambulance. There's flashing lights. And she's like, okay. Was I obvious? Was I that obvious? And she's starting to because she's starting to come down a little bit, and she's starting to realize, oh no, I did just laugh hysterically for 2 minutes at a joke that wasn't funny or even a joke. Yeah, I did scream, "Hi, Grandma," to both of them, and it was very weird. Yeah, okay, maybe I was a little obvious. But anyways, right, she's like, okay, I can't fight it now. She gets in, and she kind of, like, loses it again. Not, like, goes insane or anything, but just, like, doesn't really, kind of just, like, stares off into space. And the next thing she kind of realizes, she's in a hospital bed. They come back. They do all these tests. They say, hey, your daughter's on whatever, super funny juice, whatever things, stuff, balls. Bro, I'm not trying to get thunderbolted. Anyways, and her mom's just like, and her grandmother and her grandfather just no reaction because, like, bro, they were vibing in the 70s. They already know what's up. And her grandparents just say, like, they go to her mom because her mom is, like, has no idea, like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And they go to her mom basically saying, hey, we brought her here because we want to make sure that, whatever she had wasn't, like, infused, or I don't want to use the actual word, but, like, was attached with something else that would be potentially dangerous, and it doesn't look like it is. You should definitely talk to your daughter and make sure she doesn't do this in the future, but, like, she's not a bad kid, obviously. I mean, her grades are good. She seems to be, like, she's a good kid, right? Don't take this the wrong way. But you should definitely talk to her, make sure she doesn't do this again. And her mom's just, like, kind of like, her mom says, like, I don't really know. Like, I don't understand this stuff, obviously, and maybe you do, Mom, ? What? And her mom's like, hey, your dad and I lived in the 70s. We've been through it. Like, you know what? We'll have the conversation with her. And at this point, Phoebe was kind of paying attention, and she's like, oh, no, I have to talk to my grandma about this? No, dude, like, no, like, a punishment enough would be to talk to my mom, but also now my grandma? So she gets discharged from the hospital, and they just say, hey, just have her go to sleep. So they drive back to the house, and, Phoebe goes to sleep, and she sleeps for, like, 15 hours or something. She wakes up the next day, goes downstairs, is kind of like, oh my god, this is so awkward. Her mom just like greets her like normal, and they have breakfast/lunch at this point. And then her mom's like, hey, your grandmother's in the other room. Can you go talk to her? At this point, Phoebe's like, oh. She knew she wasn't going to get off the hook, right? There's no shot she was getting off the hook. But she goes over, goes to her grandmother, and kind of sits down. Her grandmother's like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, like, you're not in trouble. I used to do that stuff a lot, but there's a lot of, I just got to talk to you about it for a second. And she basically just gives her like a good old education on like how to be safe, why not to do that stuff, how potentially dangerous it is, but also that she's not a bad person for doing it or anything. By the end of the conversation, Phoebe felt pretty good. She also felt pretty certain she was not going to do it again for many reasons. Some were the reasons of what happened that night before, but some were also the reasons of what her grandmother said. Like, that was actually a much better conversation than she expected. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now go watch another video. There's some on screen, some on the sidebar. Watch it and I'll be very happy.